Okay. One, two, three, go. So, one, two, three. Hello, everybody. I am Chris, and with me is Henejoy. So, our topic is about the bioecological model of human development by Bronfenbrenner and Morris. But first, let us tackle what the ecological theory by Yuri Bronfenbrenner alone is all about. So we all know how complicated human development is, and even the people once answer to this complication. So just like why do people do drugs, why do people have these kinds of habits, and etc. So but if there's a reason why people do this, then by now may solusyonan tayo nito. But clearly, there are different answers for different people. But so before all that, let us first know the proponent of this theory. His name is Yuri Bronfenbrenner. So medyo mahirap i-pronounce. Nagkamali ako. Sorry. So Yuri Bronfenbrenner argues nga na para maintindihan natin ang human development, we must consider the environment ng individual o ng bata kung saan ito lumaki o nag-grow. So, Yuri Bronfenbrenner was born on April 29, 1917 and died on September 25, 2005. Ang kilala nga si Yuri sa ecological systems theory. Next. So, in 1964, si Yuri, noong 1964, a young psychologist, appeared in front of the US Congress here on the upper left photo. So, kasi sa panahon nito, noong 1964, people thought na kaya nagiging pulubi ang isang tao is a matter of biology daw. At walang kinalaman sa environment na kinalalakihan nila. Pero si Yuri wanted to change that and convince the world na kung tutulungan ang mga less fortunate, kailangan din natin baguhin ang environment at ng surroundings na kanilang kinalalakihan. Next, please. So this theory helps us think of the different influences of the human behavior. So ito ay for the ecological systems theory, not yet the bioecological. So ang theory na ito starts with an individual sa gitna. Nakikita mo yung bata in the middle. So galing dyan, palabas sa bigger parts. So this theory, it explains the connections between the social environment sa pag-develop ng isang bata. So kung tatanungin ko kayo, naka-aapekto ba ang isang paligiran ng isang bata or yung environment na nag-grow ng bata sa kanyang pag-develop? So kung oo ang sagot ninyo, tama kayo. Next please. So ito yung conceptual model ng Bronfenbrenner's ecological system theory. So makikita nga ulit, this time naman student, individual or yung bata. Influenced by 5 ecological forces kasi may 5 circles dito, no? So the first, we have the microsystem, the white circle. So sa circle na ito, family and friends that affects the child directly. So yun nga. Next, yung yellow circle, the mesosystem, the family and friends that affect ito naman yung yellow circle is the forces of the connections between the people around the child, yung parents, teachers, and teachers' peers. Example nito is when the relationship between yung parent ng bata sa school. Yun. So the third circle, the red one, is the exosystem. So exosystem, these are the links between social settings na hindi directly nag-involve sa individual or the child, kagaya ng relationship ng father and yung boss ng father, peers and parents, teachers with the principal, ganon. Number 4, the macro system, the overarching culture, religion, and social norms na nag-impluensya. And fifth is the chronosystem, time that changes everything over the courses of one's life. Next. So dito na tayo. Una, let us first know the learning outcomes. First, the learning outcomes. After the report, you must answer the following questions. Number 1, what is the importance of the biological factors in human development? Number 2, how do Bronfenbrenner and Morris operationalize the bioecological model? Number three, ano ang role of person characteristics in later development? Next.
For this particular bioecological model, in order for us to understand yung whole model ni Runner, we need to understand first yung mga disclaimers that he has provided upon starting the scientific study. Merong disclaimer that instead of making like hypothetical based scientific study, he wanted it to be discovery science in which he is trying to put and explore these studies not to confirm things but rather to discover things because he is aware na during this particular paper, yung model niya is still in its early stage. So although gi-accept niya and gi-recognize niya that there are different proponents before him, like for example, yung Magnuson's developmental theory of contextual interactive holism and other proponents before him that are always saying that the environment is a direct influence to human development. Still, for him, it is important uh, to recognize not only the ecological factor, but also the biological. So, from my partner's presentation a while ago about the history per se of this particular bioecological model, we can see na sa first part, ang gi-recognize lang ni Yuri is the ecological factor. But for this one, he provided defining properties in which we can confirm or which we can consider the bioecological model as a valid model in explaining human development. For example, there are two defining properties that we need to keep in mind before we go to the discussion later on. The first proposition is that human development takes place through processes of progressively more complex reciprocal interaction between an active, evolving biopsychological human organism and the persons, objects, and symbols in its immediate external environment. To be effective, the interaction must occur on a fairly regular basis over extended periods of time. This whole proposition is what we call the proximal process. It may be difficult to understand the first proposition because it is libog. However, in this proximal processes, we can just get the key terms and better understand them in order to proceed with a better knowledge sa discussion for later on. For example, according to Yuri, para daw magka-human development, dapat daw merong mangyaring proximal processes. And in order for proximal processes to happen, there should be first my engagement, meaning that the person is not just the recipient, they are also the active agent for the particular interaction. The second one is the interaction should be on a fairly regular basis and also over an extended period of time. Thirdly, it should be bidirectional, like what I said a while ago. For example, hindi pwedeng yung parents lang ang nag-directly influence to children. It should be that the children also provides actions that the parents would experience or actualize for them to like adjust the kind of parenting that they give to their children. So bidirectional, they influence each other. Lastly, proximal processes also involve interaction not just with people, but also with objects and symbols that surround this particular person. With that in mind, like what I said a while ago, since Yuri is trying to make a scientific study to prove the bioecological model as a valid model for human development, he created what we call sorry, I was too excited. The second proposition is that the form, power, content, and direction of the proximal processes affecting development vary systematically as a joint function of the characteristics of the developing person, the environment, the nature of the developmental outcomes under consideration, and the social continuities and changes occurring over time through the life course and the historical period during the person has lived. With these two propositions, since again, this is a scientific study, which usually employ discovery science, we have what we call the research design. Um, Yuri used a research design in order to test these particular studies and see whether or not the bio and the ecological factors really influence the human development. For this particular research design, he calls it PPCT model, which is the process, the proximal process that I have explained a while ago, the person factor, the context, and also the time. We can better understand that later on because it will be integrated on the discussion based on the studies that Jury was able to quote or cite on his book. So, one of the difference between the ecological model that Yuri was able to develop before is that walang biological factor. But in this particular model, the bioecological model, we can see that he employed na other than the environment, it is important to note the biological factors that directly influence the person. So he quoted Gillen's study in which Gillen um, made a study. Sorry. What happened was um, merong controlled group in which merong infant, 360 of them, merong normal birth weight, and then low birth weight, and then very low birth weight. So, gitry nila study kung nag-affect ba ang biological factor, which is the birth weight, sa mental capacity or the frequency of problem behaviors of these infants from age 2 and then again at age 4. So what happened, as you can see on the graph, is that as the birth weight falls, yung as the birth rate falls, mas frequent din yung symptoms or manifestations ng frequent problem behaviors. So meaning, yung birth rate really affects how the infant experiences and perceives things because Gillen stated na they operate under the mental capacity na below the normal or below what they usually should have kung meron silang normal birth weight.